Bob, we're talking mostly today about practically treating your spouse well and managing that conflict, and we're going to get into all of that. I also want to share some encouragement with people who feel like they have lost that love in their marriage, the fact that it can be rekindled. Is that truly a hope if it feels dark and not very warm in my relationship with my spouse?
Without question. We ask couples one question before they come to Hope Restored, and this is the question: if God was to work a miracle in your marriage, would you accept it? Now, this miracle could seem impossible to them, and we consider a miracle both people loving the relationship in the direction it's headed. So it's a big deal. We're talking the bar set high, and that's the only question they have to answer yes to. So we see these couples come in desperate shape, oftentimes can barely look at each other. And what our staff gets to witness is God comes in and does miraculous work in our hearts, because if our heart's available, he will not hesitate to come in. They walk away hand in hand.
Yeah, the follow-up there is, why is it so important that a person stay connected to God for the best outcome? I mean, it's kind of self-evident, but...
Well, I mean, really, God is critical to our life, period, just survival. I mean, the only reason I'm here breathing is because God's hand is on me. So to not do this with God and to not open our heart to him and to see what's possible with him, because he is so devoted to our health and well-being, and he wants our relationships to be awesome like his relationships are.
Tara, I don't know. Let me ask the question this way. It seems like from the garden, way back when, we hide. We hide from God. I mean, it's like in our human DNA now. That's, I think, part of the definition. When sin entered the world, we became shameful.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about it. What does taking personal responsibility look like in a marriage?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, big question.
Because this is kind of the big piece with both the intensives, but also our book. Personal responsibility is really taking your power back. It's what I have responsibility for and knowing what I don't have responsibility for. So many couples fix him, right? Or her.
Jenny might agree with that. I don't know.
Right?
Sorry,
Yes,
Bob.
absolutely, yes.
But we don't have any power over there. If I'm trying to do all this work to get Vince fixed, I have no control there.
Yeah.
But if I can focus in and look at what can I do differently? How can I make this situation better? How can I care for my heart?
Yeah.
That's, well, you know what comes to mind, coming out of Proverbs, one of the wisest people, or the wisest person outside of Jesus, King Solomon said, above all else, guard your spouse's heart. Above all else, guard your heart.
Yeah.
It's the wellspring of your life. This is so important. Above everything else, we need to do internal, personal work.
Well, I mean, even going back again to the garden when Adam says, yeah, that woman you gave me, right? I mean, he quickly deflected
right there.
responsibility. But that is the example we're talking about. I'd have a lot better marriage if you fill in the blank. If you did this, if you did that. Why is creating a safe marriage so important? And what's the definition of a safe marriage?
Well, it's interesting because most people, if you ask them, is their marriage safe? The first thing, and maybe even the only thing they think of, is it physically safe, which of course is extremely important. However, we broaden that because when we're talking about safety, we're talking about not only physically, but mentally, spiritually, and emotionally.
Yeah.
Because what we found is that when people truly feel safe in the relationship in all those ways, they just relax. And when they relax, their hearts open, they give the Lord access, and things start to change in them and between them almost effortlessly. So
Yeah.
we really focus on saying, you want to be taking an inventory. Do both of you really feel safe in all those areas? And if not, what's missing and what could you do differently to increase that?
Yeah. I want to get to an example of what that looks like, how your marriage can have that safety. Jean caught me on a parenting one, and I have that application where, I'm a pretty big guy, and when I would be upset with the boys, she was just noticing how they were responding to me. If my voice was up, physically that would never happen. But it just, my aggravation on something and my voice would be up and my stature would be up. And they're like 5. And she said, man, you got to get down on a knee, because I was watching the boys. When you are upset, you get bigger and you're already a big guy. So that was interesting. Just how to manage my physical presence in front of my sons when I wasn't pleased with something they had done, to kind of get down on their level. I'm sure that application is true in marriage too.
Oh my gosh. I want to create a place where, for both me and Jenny, both of us feel so relaxed, not fearing in any way that either our bodies will be dishonored or disrespected, our thoughts, that's mental safety, that we would not feel that we're about to be criticized for the way we think, our hearts would be safe, our feelings would feel welcomed and safe, and our spirit, that we would be able to pray together and be in front of God together without fear of criticism or ridicule.
And right here, we're talking about something that was really meaningful to Dina and me, and that is a reactive cycle. This is something that just was huge for us because we were always hitting that. Why don't you describe what that is?
So reactive cycle is one of our most powerful tools. I mean, they're all really, really powerful, but it's a diagnostic tool, really. So one or the other gets triggered. A button gets pressed. And immediately, our prefrontal cortex go offline, and we are in this fight, flight place or a shutdown place. But what that ends up looking like, when we feel that, we're no longer adult brain driving the bus. Now we're reacting. So our button gets pressed, and immediately we react. And our reactions, pretty much guaranteed, are going to press a button of our spouse, and their brains go offline
We
too.
are so good at that. I mean, as
Oh
human
my
beings,
gosh.
we are so good at pressing each other's buttons.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
And most couples don't go out, I'm going to get you.
Right, not
we
at all.
we just don't. But anything can press a button because they're my buttons.
Yeah.
Actually, the more subtle the button pressing, the more sophisticated we perceive ourselves.
Sometimes.
I press
Oh,
that button
man.
so easily.
I am so good at this.
But you, in
Right?
fact, have an example which will help everybody, and maybe there others of us here at the table will have examples. But it was a restaurant with your husband, and describe. I mean, this is such a simple example of how this works.
Oh, yeah, right? I mean, it happens all the time. But we were at this beautiful little restaurant. We were in Nice. It was gorgeous. A lovely day. We had this lunch. I can even remember what we were eating. It was wonderful. But it was lunch. And I mean, we're on vacation. You're eating tons. And we had decided together that let's just share an appetizer and share a main, because we don't need a huge meal and then have dinner later. Good plan. It was all good. I ordered, and they brought the appetizer, and then they brought the main on 2 plates. And we just thought, oh, that was nice. They split it, because you've been to restaurants where that's happened. They've split it up for us.
Yeah,
Great.
it's very nice.
This is good. It was delicious. It was a tuna. It was amazing.
And you ate it all, both of you.
And we both indeed ate it all.
That's important for the end of the story. Go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't too much food. But the problem was, when the bill came, they charged us for 2 mains.
Oh.
So it was a mistake, a miscommunication, or the waiter, I don't know. But it's France, and I don't speak French. So there could have been something like that. Now, Vince does speak French. He's fully Francophone. But I happened to be the one making the order. And that pressed a button for Vince. And he was really disappointed. You got to understand, Vince is somebody who values precision and getting things right and accuracy. And when this didn't happen, and I was the one who made the order. Okay, so you're beginning
You
to see
made
where
the
this
mistake.
might go. Button. So there's this disappointment button in him that's being pressed, and I'm the cause of it. So immediately he blames me.
And how'd that make you feel?
Great. No.
Right, that then pushes that button to
Oh,
say
my
now
goodness.
you've got shame and guilt because you didn't manage that well.
Right.
Now
so,
you're going to push another button of his now.
Yeah. So I feel judged, and that's a big one for me. And back up, there you go. Brain's not there. Adult isn't present anymore. And I start reacting. And I don't remember if I got defensive. Probably that would have been the first one out of the gate. getting defensive. And of course, my defensiveness gets hit, and we ramp it up a notch, and another button's pressed for him, and he starts criticizing, and now we're off to the races.
This is a wonderful vacation. So glad we did this and spent all this money in France.
I had no idea that you were there, Jim.
Oh, believe me, I was there. This was a different day, and it was Gene and me.
Right? Yeah, so off we go, and we do
Yeah.
that.
And-
But you know what got worse about this? I mean, I teach
I
this
love
stuff.
this. More confession.
Right? I teach this stuff. So I was able to kind of pause this. And in fairness, Vince doesn't spin too many times with this. He'll shut down and we don't. But then I take the baton and, okay, so we're not going to do this. I'm going to start doing it in my own head. And I started having my own reactive cycle of here we are, we're on vacation. This was what doing what you said, but in my head. And I'm pressing my own buttons, making this worse.
Oh, man.
Until finally my adult brain went, Tara, this isn't helping. Maybe it was Holy Spirit too,
Yeah.
saying, honey, this isn't helping. And I took a deep breath. You're right. And then I moved to a place of back into my own yard, paying attention to my own heart, caring, having compassion, not lighting myself on
Let
fire.
me ask both of you, since you are the practitioners at Hope Restored, Tara, you with Canada, and Bob, of course, here in the U.S. Is this, I mean, I have the impression that this is like 80% of the problem in this communication style. Of course, we have severe issues of infidelity, but just in the day-to-day, all of us kind of category, the button pushing to me seems to be, like for Gene and I, this is the issue. And we try to do it better. And to Jean's credit, she is so good now at kind of de-escalating the energy. Like, wait a minute, let's think this through. Why are we doing this to each other? Which is really good. But I'm just saying, from kind of your day-to-day normal stuff in marriage, is this one of the big things?
You know, when we first found this many, many years ago, we didn't realize that it applied to everybody. We found out this is what's going on, underlying conflict with virtually everyone. Everyone's got their own, unique version of it because my buttons are different than Tara's buttons, than your buttons, than John's buttons, than Jenny's buttons. They're all different, but the cycle itself operates exactly the same. And once you can see it, as Tara said, it's diagnostic. It doesn't fix anything. It just helps you. It turns the light on.
Yeah.
Shows you the problem so you can then begin to see, like Gene, like you just described, Gene, how you break the cycle. That's exactly what you want to do. Is you want to pause and not react so that the cycle stops.
In the book, you talk about these reactions, knee-jerk reactions, we might refer to them, regarding conflict. And there's two words, very scientific, hedgehog and shadow monster.
Indeed.
This is why you get a PhD.
Yeah.
So what are the hedgehog and shadow monster definitions?
A shadow monster, and this is really, I credit Tara for this because this was really ideas that she brought forth, and they're fabulous. But the truth is, we typically go to one strategy or another. And the shadow monster is like when something vulnerable gets triggered in you and you don't want to admit it or share it or even acknowledge it. What we tend to do is we project a pretty scary image out there as if you had a flashlight focused on you, projecting a big image on the wall to get the other person to go, and back off. And that's a way to keep your vulnerability from being evidenced by what's going on in the moment. So that's what a shadow monster is. And many times we do that. We want to look big and scary so that they don't know how vulnerable we feel inside. The hedgehog is when we just want to curl up in a little ball and have our pricklies out there and just basically wanted to hide. And you know that you want to leave me alone because if you come and try and embrace me at that point, you're going to get stuck. So those are two strategies that are very, very common that any one of us could employ, either or both.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I think I do both at
Yeah.
times.
Right?
I
We probably
certainly
all do, yeah. And we're protecting the little child inside that doesn't want to be seen.
Yeah, yeah.
Stopping that reactive cycle requires, in the book, you say it requires healthy self-care. Give me that definition of healthy self-care.
Honestly, we have 5 steps to healthy self-care. First, you got to become aware. What is going on? Notice what's happening in your body because there's pretty much always a physiological thing that's going on when your button gets pressed.
Huh.
Yeah. So whether it's, my heart's racing, or I'm feeling sweaty, or I'm just noticing that my muscles are getting tense and I'm, or my stomach is dropping or jumping or whatever. There's something. And if you can slow down and become aware, that's the beginning. Okay, the next step is really, really key, accepting. This one is hard because you're accepting the feelings, these yucky things that we want to push away. I have to accept them and the responsibility to take care of them.
Yeah.
And that's really hard. And we go into more detail about that. Then we want to allow God to be part of this, because why not get the perspective of the one who actually sees better than I am without my adult brain?
Well, I so appreciate that, because I was going to ask that follow-up blending of, things that are happening, psychological models. God created us. People can study how we think, how we behave, what our emotions are. And some of us in the Christian community kind of trip on that a little bit. Like we have to be on a switch, all about psychology and not God, or all about God and not recognizing how he's created us. But you guys, it's the blending of that, correct?
Yeah,
the
God
understanding
wired our
of the
brains.
models. And yeah.
He created us this way. So if we can understand his creation and how he wired us and bring him into it, as believers, we have something that the rest of the world doesn't have. We don't have less, we have more. It's not an either or, it's both.
Which is why it brings us all the way back to what we started with. If you can answer that question, can God do a miracle in your marriage?
Yes.
You got to be able to say, yes, he can. If you say no, your heart is already indicating it's so hard. It's going to be nearly impossible to change that. Bob, let me extend that self-care idea, the idea that you need to work on the proactive self-care. Describe it for me.
Okay, so proactive is just general maintenance. Just taking care of yourself, making sure you get plenty of exercise, eat well, rest, and so forth. The reality is, though, that, Jim, nobody ever comes to us for help with proactive self-care. They come to us for help. What do I do when my buttons get pushed? That's reactive. And then there's the care cycle is one of the things. Matter of fact, the whole purpose of us writing this book, the distinctive that makes this book different than what we've done previously, is we're saying many times in the culture and even in the church, we inadvertently put the cart before the horse. We basically make it all about the marriage the moment we get married, like we blow out the candles on the unity candle and we ignore ourselves. But the reality is the marriage doesn't exist apart from the people and can never be healthier or more empowered than the people. So we're saying, let's make sure that our personal journeys to be fully who God created us to be and bring every drop of what he gave us is actively in place, and then add to it caring well for the relationship and building a good relationship. So first 2/3 of the book is on the personal responsibility, on our relationship with God, on getting whole and healthy, finding our purpose, and how that relates to the marriage. And then the last third is on how do you take those great principles and turn your marriage into something you love.
Welcome back for more of the conversation with Tara and Bob in just a minute, but let me thank you for joining us here on YouTube. And if you'd like to hear more of those top shows from the past year, check out our Best of 2024 audio collection. We've got a link in the program description below.
And if today's show has been meaningful to you, I hope you'll consider giving back so that we can continue to provide content like this. And we are listener supported, and we need your help to keep growing the ministry, especially as we plan for the next year. So please make a generous donation to Focus on the Family today, and share this video with friends or family who could benefit from Tara and Bob's insights. That's a great way for you to help us expand our reach and support more marriages. And let me say thank you for watching and for partnering with us in ministry. And now let's hear the rest of what Tara and Bob had to say. One barrier to being empowered to love is blaming your spouse for your unhealthy conflict. Now, let me see everybody's hand if you have done that. It's just human nature. What would you say to someone who is struggling with that? Let's just pretend you're talking to me, for example, about how I tend to blame Gene for things.
I was a world-class blamer. It seemed to me that every time we had a conflict that I would be focused on what Jenny did I didn't like and what I wanted her to do differently. And I was whining and complaining because she just wasn't getting with the program and making the changes that I was suggesting. So I'm not, she's not listening to me. So I'm whining to God. And God met me in a very convicting way. And he basically asked me a couple of questions. And when he convicts me, he usually throws me off guard. So the first thing he said is, Bob, right now, who are you seeing as causing the problem? Well, of course, her.
That woman you gave me.
That's exactly right. And who are you seeing as holding the keys to the solution? Well, again, if she would just, instead of this, and he said, so Bob, who has all the power? Well, she does. And Bob, how did she get it? Well, I guess I gave it to her. He said, Bob, I didn't give you the power to give it to her. I gave you the power to use responsibly. And that's the biggest thing that we see about blame, is that when you blame the other person, you are inadvertently giving them your power and disempowering yourself. And that is not God's intent. So we really suggest back off of the blame. You're not doing yourself or your relationship any favors. And what people don't realize is that what causes the romance and passion to dissipate is that we actually stop being focused on getting to know our spouse like we did originally. And we're convinced, and we talk a lot about this, that the essence of real romance and passion is fascination and curiosity. And you got to get to the point where you go, same old, there's nothing new to learn. And matter of fact, I can tell you one of the most sad counseling stories that I ever encountered. Guy came into me with his wife, having the situation that's maybe the most common we deal with. He'd had an affair. He was very upset because he was a devout believer, and he was very critical of people who had ever had an affair. And then he found himself in that position, and he said, what's going on here? And he did some work before he came to us that most people don't. He figured out why. And what he came to me and said was that the reason was because I had inadvertently let the romance and passion in my relationship fade. And I want you to help us rekindle the romance. And I told him what I just said to you, that actually the essence is fascination and curiosity. And you got to continue to be in that journey of getting to know each other in deeper and deeper ways. The Hebrew word is yada, to know. Okay? So he looks at me like this, and he leans back and he goes, I don't buy it.
Okay.
Okay, why? He says, Bob, my wife truly is maybe one of the most loving people on the planet, but she's just not that complicated. And I'll tell you, there is nothing about her that I don't already know. And then he wags his finger at me and her, because she's there too, and says, I dare either one of you to come up with anything about her I don't already know. And I looked at him, I said, man, if that's the case, you're sunk. But I knew he was wrong.
Yeah.
Because truthfully, one lifetime isn't close to enough time to fully get to know any human being, yourself included. I mean, I've been married now for over 43 years. I am learning new things about Jenny Paul every single day. And just to make it interesting, she keeps changing on me. But that's okay. There's always something new and exciting to learn.
There is that little hard to get thing that is very interesting.
I'm learning new things about me all the time, and I've been hanging with me even longer.
Yeah, that's okay. So I would think that is an extremely prideful man to think he could get there.
Yeah, and very deceived.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, his wife...
So what happened? Did he have the aha? Did he go, okay? As soon as she said, well, this is something you don't know about me.
No, she actually was believing that about herself. And they actually left, and he figured I had nothing to help him with because there had to be some magic pill that I could have given him instead.
My mind is spinning, but let's keep this moving. You have a story about the links that Jenny, your wife, went to in setting boundaries with your early marriage because you were not cooperating appropriately. What happened in that story?
Okay, this is the most commonly told story in our organization.
Gene loved this story. I shared it with her.
We all love this
It's very embarrassing, but it's sadly true. You see, as I said earlier, when Jenny would do something I didn't like, I thought the thing that I was supposed to do as a responsible husband is to go to her and talk to her about the things she did I didn't like and the things I wanted her to do differently. And for some reason, she never enjoyed those conversations.
Let me just have a gut check. Tara, you're a woman, you're a wife. Is that the way we men should approach that? Is straightening you out?
It doesn't hit any buttons at all, ever, every single time.
Okay, Bob, back to you.
And it never went well for me either. So my wife, thankfully, is a woman who has a very strong sense of self, and she started realizing that if she was to change all the things I wanted to change, that soon there'd be no Jenny left. So she and God got into cahoots, and I came to her one day with that in mind, started yapping at her, and she said, and she walked away. Now, Of course, I'm not going to be put off by that. So I just started following her, yapping at her as she goes. And she's going from room to room until finally she goes and she locks herself in the bedroom. And I'm thinking, cool, I got a captive audience. I might as well get comfortable. So I sat down on the floor outside the bedroom door, kept the barrage going until I heard the car start. She literally pulled the screen off the window, opened the window, climbed out the window, was driving off down the way to get away from me. And I'm thinking, she doesn't care about God. She doesn't care about me. She doesn't care about our marriage. And I was sadly so mistaken because I had no idea how much I was so off base. I was so unsafe. I was so committed to trying to change my wife. And, it's bad enough when you try and change your spouse and you get on their bad side. But you're kind of thumbing your nose at the Creator saying, hey, you could have done better. And I don't recommend that.
Just for the record, Jean loved that part of the story the most. Jenny going out the window. She was like, I love her.
Well, she came back and I said, you were bailing on us. And she said, Bob, why are you making this about you? I was taking care of me so I could get myself back to a better place so I could bring a better me back to the relationship.
So what have you learned about those boundaries set by Jenny? I mean, what have you learned about that? Are you cool with it now?
I've hated every boundary. She said, my wife is what I like to call a boundary ninja. Everything I've learned worth learning about boundaries, I learned with her, setting them with me. I hated every single one of them until God
Yay,
said,
Jenny.
Yeah, I said,
Really?
Yeah, I hated everyone until God said, Bob, what she did is good. I want you to learn how to do it, and I want you to teach others.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lesson right there. Tara, let me ask you, in setting boundaries, which I think wives, I don't want to be too generalistic or stereotypical here because the shoe could be on the other foot. I get that. But wives seem to know how to set those boundaries pretty well.
Oh, some do.
Yeah, so
and some don't.
talk about that boundary setting, the healthy aspect of it. I would think that, again, women tend to wear guilt so easily that could be the conflict in the boundary setting. Well, I want to set this boundary, but should I? I don't know. You get the head discussion going there.
Yeah.
But speak to that issue of healthy boundary setting.
Right. Well, first I want to clarify, boundaries are not about making my spouse do or not do anything. Jenny wasn't setting a boundary so he would stop.
Right.
Jenny was setting a boundary so she could take care of her.
Yes.
So that she could show up well. Right? So we don't want to just trade
got it.
Don't be my Holy Spirit, I'll be yours. No, he's actually very good at it and he's still on the throne. Right?
That's right. Amen.
So a healthy boundary is basically, first off, saying a request that, I'm not happy with this behavior and I would like this behavior to stop or to change. But with every request, no has to be an acceptable answer. Always, for love to be love, no has to be an acceptable answer. We feel very strongly about this. So that works with boundaries too. So your spouse says, no, I'm going to keep doing this. Okay. The boundary then is, what do I need to do to make sure that I am safe in this situation? And that might be, I need to step back. I need to go to a different room.
Climb out the window.
I need to climb out the window. Yay. I need to do whatever it is that I need to do so that we can come back. And I would say, I'd be open to have this conversation with you, but not like this.
Yeah.
And if every time you come at me like this, I will be backing away. But if we can do this differently, I really want this. So it's not a temper tantrum. It's not punishment. If the attitude is punishment, that's not a healthy boundary. This is, I'm stepping away to be healthy, and I'm giving opportunity for us to do this better within healthy parameters.
Tara, when your spouse is ready to connect with you emotionally, a tool that you talk about in the book is heart talk. Okay, all the guys just curled up in a ball.
Right?
What is heart talk?
Heart talk is very similar to active listening, to be honest with you. And many people have heard of active listening and reflecting back and forth. But what we think is unique about this is the heart component of it. So 2 roles. You've got a speaker and a listener. Sounds obvious, right?
Yeah.
Except that so often listeners are speakers in waiting.
Now you're killing me.
Guilty.
Right?
I'm always finishing the sentences.
Yeah, we're one step ahead of our speaker, or we're trying to think of, I got something to respond to that. You're not listening.
I'm trying so hard to change that. Jean just gives me the look when I finish her sentence. Like, that's not what I was going to say. I appreciate your input. Can I finish my sentence now?
It's not choose your own adventure. I'm actually saying this. Yeah. So you're speaking about emotional content. This isn't talking about what you did yesterday and all of that. This is about me and how I feel. So it might be helpful to build some emotional vocabulary. We do have some emotion vocabulary lists at the back of the book in one of the appendix because it's not easy. But then the heart. So the listener lets the speaker's communication touch the heart. They care about this. When Vince is sharing something with me from the heart, it doesn't happen all that often with Vince, and it's gold when it does. And everything stops, and I'm listening for what he's trying to say, and I let it touch me. I don't have to agree with him. That's not what Heart Talk is. Heart Talk is, this is your experience, and this is how it impacts you, and that matters to me because you matter to me. And then you reflect it back. So what I'm hearing you say is this. Am I getting that right? That's an important question. No, that's what you said. No. Am I getting it right? Because maybe, I said that, but that's not what I meant. It's this. Okay, so it's not that. It's this? Yes.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful when we feel understood. So many spouses want to say, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I understand. I don't know if you understand. But if you say, I'm hearing you say, when I did that, it made you feel hurt and like I was talking down to you. Oh, yeah, you do understand.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Well, it's interesting that we teach Heart Talk as a way to put like guardrails on your communication vehicle around on the road so you keep your communication vehicle out of the ditch. It's really simple. It's just some simple rules. But honestly, you follow the rules just until you get good at it. And then you don't have to think about it anymore because you want to have successful communication with each other. And where we really encourage people to start is talking about using the tool to talk about positive stuff, not negative stuff. Because if you only use Heart Talk every time a bad thing comes up, when Gene comes to you and says, honey, can we have a heart talk? Your immediate reaction is going to go, oh no, here we go. But there are so many positive things that go unsaid that are taken for granted, and you can practice using that. There's things that Jenny does every day that thrill me. For me to take a moment and say, hey, can we have a heart talk? When you did this yesterday, I felt so great. And, that's an easy one. It's a great way to get good at doing that. So when the tough stuff comes up, you can have facility with the skill and just lean into it, and it just flows naturally and effortlessly.
Do you want to give me a couple of the rules?
Wait. Let me toss in a side note. Bob was talking about putting romance back in and curiosity, using Heart Talk in those positive things. Talk about a way
All the
to
guys
build.
just went, okay, now give me those rules.
Absolutely, yes. Let's
This will
go.
lead there, right?
What are some of, just as an example, what are a couple of those rules?
It's
What
very
you-
simple. We use the acronym ICU for the steps. It's very simple. Identify feelings, care about the feelings, seek to understand or be understood. So that's exactly what we just laid out for the speaker. Listener does the same thing. I identify the feelings of the speaker. Care about those feelings, like Tara said, and let them touch you. And then seek to understand. So what I heard you say was this. Is this what you were feeling? And do it tentatively. Let the speaker confirm that you got it, because the communication isn't complete when you as a listener think you get it. The communication is complete when the speaker thinks you get it.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
It's very simple. There's nothing complicated about this. And when we speak effectively to one another, we're actually doing this. We don't realize we're doing it.
How do you capture that and say, wait a minute, we're on the same team here? What does that mean to be on the same team?
Well, first of all, this is a rule of relationships, a law of relationships God created, okay? Marriage is a team sport. Whether you acknowledge it, whether you understand it, whether you recognize it or not, it's God's design. And when you're on the same team, there's only two possible outcomes. You both win or you both lose. There is no such thing as a win-lose outcome in marriage. ever. It's purely an illusion from the pit of hell. And the enemy wants us to square off his adversaries. He uses a divide and conquer strategy.
That's one of his fruits.
It is one
to
of his
divide.
Yeah. That's what he wants to do. And Scripture says very clearly, a house divided cannot stand. So the second we square off his adversaries, he's got us. He doesn't even have to stick around. He can go mess with the neighbors. He's got us covered. So we want to resist that. And we have a no losers policy at play in our house, because I realize Jenny's my teammate. And if Jenny walks away feeling bad about an interaction, or I walk away feeling bad about an interaction, our team loses. And we are refusing to let them continue to have parties in hell at our expense. We do not want that. We want to walk away victorious. So we got to be attentive to the fact that both of us have to feel good about what we're doing and where we end up, or the whole team is lost.
You know, that is perfectly said. And some listeners right here at the end are going, wow, okay, we're not nearly where we need to be. And it's not a condemnation. This isn't necessarily a grade. You score an F. It's the realization that we're not living in the fullness of what God has created. And what a beautiful picture that is when we do. And it is possible. You're seeing that at Hope Restored. These couples, maybe not everybody, but many of the couples that go have this lift spiritually in their marriage. They understand each other far better. You did a great job recapping that a moment ago, Tara. But let's speak to that woman, Tara. You can speak to her, and Bob, you speak to that guy who's listening or viewing this on YouTube right now, and they're going, uh-oh, we're not there. This is touching the need that I've been feeling.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you're willing, get the book. We give all kinds of resources for that wife or that husband.
Right.
It doesn't have to be both of us have to buy in to buy the book and get benefit from this. If you both do, you can change your marriage. But say it's just the wife doing it. Say she's the only one who's interested in making this change, in doing this work. Real change can happen. In fact, on many levels, that is the marriage that I live in. Vince isn't interested in using these tools or doing this kind of work. It's not his wheelhouse. He has other really cool things, but this is not him. And that's okay, because God didn't wire him that way. And he's teaching me to love the man I married, not the one that I want to make him.
Wow.
And to love me and know that my God loves me and he can be the husband, hard truth, he can be the husband that I long for in those deep emotional connection ways until such time, if ever, he sees fit to make those changes in Vince. But I got to tell you, God is so good and he is so faithful. And the relationship you can have with the Lord this way, with an open heart to him, you can feel that intimacy, that fullness. You can then love your husband well for God's well done, good and faithful servant, and it'll feel good.
Tara's honesty was so refreshing, and I appreciate her and Bob's faithful work with Focus on the Family. They're just two of our dedicated staff who work every day to bring families like yours the resources and support you need. And one of those resources is our week-long marriage intensive, Hope Restored. If you're facing a crisis in your marriage or even just needing a marriage tune-up, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to transform your relationship. Divorce statistics are still devastating, but the number of marriages being saved by Hope Restored is significant. And with your help, we can keep putting a dent in the divorce rate and making a generational impact on families. That's pretty exciting. Especially now at the end of the year, we need your financial support to plan for the next season of ministry. I hope that as you celebrate the holidays coming up, you consider donating to help us keep giving families hope. And when you make a gift of any amount today, you'll get a copy of Tara and Bob's book, Empowered to Love, as our way of saying thank you. The book's full of more insights into making your marriage healthy and safe.
And you can find information on Hope Restored and get a copy of Tara and Bob's book, Empowered to Love, Discovering Your God-Given Power to Create a Marriage You Both Love, when you call 800, the letter A, and the word family. Or you'll find details in the program description below. Thanks for watching Focus on the Family with Jim Daly. I'm John Fuller, inviting you back as we once again help you and your family thrive in Christ.